You ever been there? You're part of this brilliant new strategy session, everyone's excited, the plan is perfect, and then a few months later you look around and nothing's really changed. It's just kind of fizzled out. Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens, and it's almost never because the plan was bad. We're going to look at a tool that shows you the invisible forces that cause these good plans to fail, and more importantly, what to do about it. This right here, this quote absolutely nails it. The problem isn't the vision. The problem is that the vision isn't changing what people do day to day. There's this huge gap between the beautiful PowerPoint deck and what's actually happening on the ground. That is the mystery we're going to solve. And here it is. This is the big aha moment. A strategy is just an intention. It's what we hope will happen. But our behavior, what we actually do, that's almost entirely shaped by the environment around us, the systems, the processes, the unwritten rules. And when your intention clashes with that environment, well, the environment is going to win every single time. So what we're talking about isn't some big, dramatic collapse. It's more like a slow, quiet drift. When the world around your team, all those systems and habits, is pointing in the opposite direction of the new strategy, the plan just fades away. It doesn't go out with a bang, it just becomes background noise. Because behavior never really changed in the first place. Okay, so that's the problem. But here's the good news. We can actually map this environment. We can take these invisible forces and make them totally visible by looking at 6 very specific conditions. These are the things that decide whether a great idea stays an idea or actually becomes a reality. Let's get into what they are. So here they are: agency, defaults, friction, capacity, attention, and meaning. I want you to think of these like the 6 critical gears in your organization's engine. For any new strategy to really move forward, all 6 of these gears have to be turning in the same direction. Because as we're about to see, if even one of them is jammed, the whole machine can grind to a halt. So let's break them down one by one. First up, agency. This is all about real, genuine authority. I mean, it's easy to give someone responsibility for a project, right? But if they have to get 5 different sign-offs just to book a meeting room, they don't have agency. They have responsibility without power. And that's a recipe for zero progress. Next, we have defaults. What happens in your company when no one is really thinking about it? What's the default setting? Because human behavior always follows the path of least resistance. If your project templates, your reporting dashboards, your bonus structures are all still set up to reward the old way of doing things, you're basically asking your team to swim upstream. And that leads us right into friction. Think about all those little annoying barriers, the extra paperwork, the confusing software, maybe even just the social risk of being the one person to try something new. If the new thing you want people to do is even a little bit harder than the old thing, people are going to snap right back to what's easy, no matter how motivated they are. All right, now for a big reality check. Capacity. A brilliant idea is totally useless if people are already burned out. Do they really have the time for this, or is their brain already overloaded with 10 other top priority projects? You have to look past the aspirational talk and get real about the actual bandwidth your people have. Attention is all about focus, specifically leadership's focus. And look, it's not measured by a big kickoff announcement. It's measured by what's at the top of the agenda in the weekly leadership meeting. What do managers ask about first? What gets followed up on consistently? That's what tells people what's actually important around here. And last but definitely not least, we have meaning. For people to really, truly get on board, they need to know why. Why does this matter? Is this just another box-ticking exercise to keep management happy? Or is it connected to a bigger purpose, something that makes the work feel important? That's the emotional fuel that drives real change. Okay, so we have our 6 conditions. Now, how do we actually use them? Well, the very first step, and this is non-negotiable, is you have to get super specific. This whole diagnostic tool falls apart if you're working with vague goals. It needs concrete behaviors. I mean, this slide says it all. Be more innovative. What does that even mean? How do you measure that? It's just a wish. But run cross-functional pilots within 90 days? Now that's a behavior. It's specific, it's measurable. That's the level of detail you need to make this whole thing work. So once you have that crystal clear critical behavior locked in, it's time to score each of those 6 conditions against it. This is where you really start to see the truth about your current environment. And, most importantly, where you can get the biggest bang for your buck. And the scale is dead simple. A 1 basically means your current system is actively fighting against the behavior you want. A 5 means your system is perfectly set up to make it happen automatically. And the key here is you got to be brutally honest. This isn't about what you hope is true, it's about what is true right now. So you might do this and end up with a scorecard that looks kind of like this. Maybe you're crushing it on defaults and attention, solid 5s, but then you get to friction, and it's a 2. Now, the temptation is to look at the average score. Don't do that. The real story here is always your lowest score. Boom. That lowest score, that 2 for friction in our example, that's your leverage point. This is not a bad grade. This isn't a failure. It's a map. It's a giant flashing arrow pointing you to the single biggest bottleneck that is holding your entire strategy hostage. And this is the core idea of the whole diagnostic. You don't try to fix everything at once. That's a waste of energy. A strategy, just like a chain, is only as strong as its weakest link. Your job is to find that one weakest link and pour all your effort into strengthening it first. Now we can take this a step further and actually create a picture of our strategy's health. It's a way to visualize what we call the shape of your organization's alignment. You just plot each of those 6 scores on a radar chart like this one, and then you connect the dots. What you get is a shape. And that shape gives you this instant gut-level understanding of where your system is strong and where it's dangerously out of balance. So if you get a really lopsided, spiky shape, you know you have a major structural problem. The strategy is basically breaking at its weakest point. If you get a really small shape overall, it means the whole system is hostile to this new idea. What you're shooting for is a big, balanced shape. That tells you your conditions are aligned and your plan actually has a fighting chance. And the best part is, this gives you a clear playbook. Once you found that weakest link, you know exactly what to do. If friction is your lowest score, your job is to simplify processes. If it's capacity, you need to start pausing other projects. It doesn't just find the problem, it points you right to the most powerful solution. This quote really just sums the whole thing up perfectly. Stop obsessing over the strategic plan. Start obsessing over designing the conditions that make the right behavior the easiest and most natural choice. You get that right, and the future you want starts to take care of itself. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What kind of future is your organization actually creating? Not with its fancy mission statements, but with the quiet, day-to-day reality of its environment. Answering that question honestly, well, that might just be the most important strategic work you can do.